All right, hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. Ouch. Today. Hello, George. George has some thumbs up. He had some good stuff go on today. The board is red today. Bitcoin was down a little bit today. Not the greatest week of all time, but there is a bunch of stuff to go through. Some data points, some news stories. We're going to talk a little bit of Tesla because it was definitely the news of the week. So, we won't go crazy with it, but we're going to talk a little bit of that. We'll talk a little bit of how politics is affecting things going on. And we're going to talk a bunch about what in the heck Terawulf is doing. They had three back-to-back press releases 3 days in a row. So we got all kinds of stuff to go to. Before we get going, if I could ask everybody, I actually might have this working. All right. If you could please smash the like button, we would appreciate it very much. It does help the stream out in real time. I semi-fixed the like button. It's been broken for months. So we'll see if it holds up. We got 20 likes. We're going for 100, then 200. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Let's get into Bitcoin, the Bitcoin miners, and everything.
Okay. Before you do, just in. Ready?
Ready. Hot off the press.
Right. Grateful Dead bass player died. Phil Lesh.
Oh, Phil Lesh. Okay. I am not a deadhead, but I have a brother that is, who's seen them hundreds of times. He has, back in the day, he's my older brother. So, he's been going to Dead concerts since the late 70s, early 80s. So that's, there's a lot of it. Let us know in the comment section if you follow the Grateful Dead or the whole entire ecosystem that has surrounded that. There's a lot of bands adjacent to that. So, not to get too sidetracked, but thank you, George. That is breaking news. And there's a lot of people that's going to be a big deal too. Not sure if anybody here cares, but that's actually big news. And, all those guys obviously are getting old. Did you say how old he was?
84. That's pretty good life for that man. Holy smokes.
I mean, that's a good run. It's always sad to see somebody go, but that's a good run. So, well, there you go.
Nice. I got Phil right. I thought it was Phil McCracken, personally.
Got a message for
Ricky. What's funny about Bitfarms, since we'll get right into it? I own Bitfarms. Bitfarms is one of those you got to get in and get out. I don't care what anybody says. If you want to make your money on them, you can almost time it when they come out of their drunken stupor and they start selling again.
George,
sorry.
So that's George's news of the day. He's kind of leading with it. He's been almost day trading. I'll say Bitfarms, and you nailed it today. He let me know when he got in. He let me know when he got out. And man, it was, it wasn't exactly to the penny, but it was pretty darn close. So congratulations.
You're competing against, others, people buying, but you're also competing against our boy there at the old Bitfarms.
Right. That's right. As with many of these, you're competing with the at the market offerings as well. So, when retail interest disappears, it gets tougher and tougher for these things to run. But we're going to look at what they did this week, and I want to revisit what they did last week because I'm going to put the two together and talk about it and give you my thoughts, and we'll see what your thoughts are. Sour Melon Gaming has been a member for 20 months, so thank you to all the members. I see a bunch of members on stream. Thanks to Sour Melon Gaming, said, here's what's going to happen, Tom. So this is from Sour Melon Gaming. Trump's going to win. The floodgates of Wall Street are going to open. Then the price of Bitcoin is going to rocket into 2025. So I like that. Let's see. And I have an article. I have some articles about the election again, and if this person wins, and if that person wins, and is it going to make a difference? What's going to be the deal? But listen, the bottom line is we're all here, I think, to see Bitcoin finally make its run. And I will say we're still not to the point in the previous two cycles. So in the previous two cycles, it has taken somewhere between 215 and 235 days post-halving for Bitcoin to reach its previous all-time high and then have that parabolic breakout. So we're still a couple of months away from that. Now, every halving isn't going to be identical. Obviously, this one had a lot of differences. The ETFs came in, ran this thing up big time, which I think is why we're, in the middle of a 7-month consolidation. We ran early and now we're kind of paying for it. But ultimately, it's my opinion, not financial advice, but I think a lot of people here think we've yet to see the real run. Right, we got leg one of the run. The Bitcoin has two runs. One of it's off of the bottom of the crypto winter, and that can be a giant run up, which it was in 2023. And then the other one is that final blow off top where, it goes considerably beyond where it was in the last cycle. Now, no guarantees, of course, time will tell, but that's the concept here. I think that's the investment theory. Midway, member for 11 months. Thank you very much. Midway says, I bought some more CleanSpark shares this afternoon near $11.50. What's your opinion of CleanSpark daily chart and how high it might go in its next leg higher? So I will look at the CleanSpark chart, and I think there's a lot of room. And it didn't hold $12. So it was been trying to hold $12 this week. I might have this one open. If not, I'll go open it.
I hope it holds 10.
So this is my opinion. Again, obviously, please do your own due diligence. This is how I look at CleanSpark. CleanSpark had a very, very natural trading range here from February of 2024 until August 1st of 2024. You could see that it was consistently bouncing off the bottom somewhere just under $14 to, one time it did get as high as $23.60, but call it between $14 and, $22. I think that's a very natural range for CleanSpark to be in. I will show you, they had a press release. Somebody very interesting had to file their position in CleanSpark, and I think you guys are going to agree it's really good news. So to me, I'm waiting for CleanSpark just to get back to what I think is its normal trading range, right? It had this whole period here at these ridiculous numbers. Now, it did this, and it's kind of doing this again. So I do believe the next move is here, and we spend some time in this range, and then ultimately at some point, if Bitcoin breaks out to 80, 90, 100,000. We blow by all these numbers. That's my opinion. So that's what I'm waiting for. That's what I'm looking for. Midway, let me know if that's in line with what you're thinking. So there's a potential double just to still stay, right inside of its trading range here. This is somewhere, around a double from where it is here. So I like a lot of as I'm looking chart by chart, Bitcoin miner by Bitcoin miner, I like the setup in a lot of these charts, just from a technical standpoint and where they are. And I do think they're all struggling to move back up and start to hold some of these lines, get back above some lines of support, and then make that next move. But like we've been saying now for about 4 or 5 months, until we clearly break out of the range that we're in, and we'll look at the daily chart in a few minutes, until we make a clear, and it looked like we were breaking out, and I still think we might be, but we need to make that next move. And then I think we're going to see all these moves. And they've already, you can see, I mean, from the very recent bottom, CleanSpark's up 33% in, a couple weeks, in 2 weeks. So a lot of these have started to make their move for sure. And I think there's a lot more room left to run. Doesn't mean it can't get worse before it gets better. As you guys know, the volatility is real. This is volatility on steroids. It's just, this is the most volatile place in the market. But having said that, if you play it right, if you're patient, and or if you're paying attention and day trading or swing trading, there's all different ways to make money at this. But please be very careful. Do your own due diligence, because if if you don't have conviction, there's an awful lot of retail investors that get burned. And we're going to take a look at a chart that I believe kind of goes to the fact that retail investors in Bitcoin itself, never mind the Bitcoin miners, is extremely low. They've walked away for the meantime. I think they're about to come back, but we're going to see. We need some price action on that. All right, so we got 42 likes. If you just joined us, if you could do us a favor and hit the like button, it does help the stream out in real time. We're going for 100 likes. It makes a big difference. So I want to thank everybody very much. We finally just did get our like button working again after a couple of months of it not working. I'm not the most technically savvy person, but we got it done. So let's see. I'm just going to take a look at a couple of the comments before I move on to the next thing. Sourmelon Gaming, I'm riding Bitfarms to 0. A good captain goes down with his ship. Well, Sourmelon Gaming, I don't think it's going to 0. So that is my personal opinion. And while we're here, we'll just look at the Bitfarms chart. We'll look at some of these charts today. And so if you look at the Bitfarms chart, I mean, as recently as July, they were in the low 3s. Back in, you got to go all the way back to February. They did get to almost $4 in the year 2024. So that would be a double for them to get back there. So that would be a 105% increase for Bitfarms for them to get back to where they were in February. Now, a bunch of things would have to happen. For Bitfarms in specific, we talked about this on the members only stream. Bitfarms has said they're going to get to 20. They've reiterated every single press release. They expect to be at 21 exahash at the end of this year, 2024. Well, they're at 11.3 when last they reported. We're going to get a report from them in a week. They always report on the first business day of the month. So a week from now, we will get a report from them. And I am hoping to see an increase. If it's 11.3 in October, 11.3 in November, and all of this growth comes in December, or they miss the end of the year, we need some clarity from them. I think the market is holding them down a little bit for that reason. So they need to finish their growth plan, or at least the part that they've told us about. And by the way, they expect to get to 35 exahash in 2025, right? They've got their acquisition of Stronghold pending. So, they're making plans. They're growing. We're just not seeing it in the exahash right now. So I think we need to see that. We need to see the exahash go up. We need to see the number of Bitcoin go up. And you'll see, this is still kind of, this is forming a little bit of a wedge pattern here that I think there's a lot of room. This line at $2.16, I think, is some resistance. If we could break out of this low $2 range, first we got to hold $2. Then we got to break out of that. And you can see, this, even just to its recent, that's a 73% increase back to June, a 65% increase back to where they were in July. But I do think this, obviously, all of these are dependent on what Bitcoin does. So if Bitcoin continues to drift and meander aimlessly, then we're going to have to wait for some price action on some of these Bitcoin miners. We will show the week to date, and we will show the year to date. There's 2 of these Bitcoin miners and another one that we follow closely that's not a Bitcoin miner, but that's a straight play on Bitcoin, which is MicroStrategy. So there's 3 companies that have performed extremely well, some of the best stocks in the market this year. The rest of the Bitcoin miners are not doing so well, and more than half of them are actually down on the year in the year 2024. So it has been a very, very tough run so far. And Edmund, I will take a look at MicroStrategy when I do the year to date. I've got the MicroStrategy chart up as well, and I will compare and I will give everybody a spoiler alert. MicroStrategy's in first place. They're doing better than all of the Bitcoin miners, but we'll look at exactly what each one of them is doing and compare it to MicroStrategy. So that has been the great play. Old Jock said Wall Street came out Wall Street Journal came out with the usual Tether FUD. So I am going to go through that because, I mean, yes, is it FUD? I don't know. How many stories about Tether have we heard over the years? But so as long as you bring it up, old jock, I will go to that story right now because I do think that Bitcoin got derailed this week. And I think this is the number one reason right here. So we might as well go straight to that. Okay, crypto rally foiled by report of the Department of Justice probe of Tether. Bitcoin appeared poised to make another run at $70,000, but a Wall Street Journal story of a criminal probe into the stablecoin issuer sent prices tumbling. So I don't know if tumbling is necessarily accurate, but we did have a pullback this week. Bitcoin pulled back 3% this week. So for the vicious run it's been on lately, right? It was up 9% the week before. So we had a little pullback. We had a little bit of consolidation, but I do think this is one of the reasons this thing stalled out temporarily. So you can see the market cap of Tether is now over $120 billion. I mean, this thing is an absolute monster. So talking to X shortly following the story, Tether chief technology officer, I will not mispronounce this person's name, said the Wall Street Journal is regurgitating old noise. There is no indication, said Ardiano, that Tether is under investigation. So, is this just recycling, to old Jock's point, is this just recycling old news? I don't know if it is or it isn't, but if it is, that is the absolute definition of FUD because I do think this was one of the things that impacted, the kind of the stall out. So that's what's going on there. People continue to throw mud at Tether, but while they are doing that, if you look, I mean, Tether is the third largest cryptocurrency. Obviously, it's a stable coin. It's pegged to the dollar. So, it's always within a tenth or a hundredth or a thousandth of a penny off of one that's pegged to the US dollar. But the market cap has grown astronomically. This is now at $120 billion. So that is significantly ahead of the fourth place, which is Binance's stablecoin. And it's worth noting, while we're here, Solana had another stellar week. While you see red on the 7-day chart here, everything red, you've got Solana up 7.7%. Just going to open this chart real quick because it is worth a look. Go to the 1 year. I mean, Solana's kind of peaking again. It's gotten up here a bunch of times. We'll see if it can break out of this range. It did get even up to, it did get to $200 at one point, but you can see Solana is going to be the winner of the year 2024 of the bigger coins, right? There's obviously micro cap and nano cap type coins that can have bigger percentage moves, but Solana is the big winner. And an overall cryptocurrency, as the stable coin market grows, that bodes very well for the cryptocurrency market because that is people putting liquidity into the entire process, into the entire crypto universe in order to buy cryptocurrency. Andy said, hi all, news on Bitfarms, exahash, or is there still no news from Ben? So no news there. We're still waiting to see if they can do what they're talking about. They have been consistent that they expect to be at 21 exahash at the end of the year. But we did just talk earlier that I do think, and I think we still have that chart up, I do think they are stuck. This $2.16 anywhere in here, even, anywhere in the low, to me, under $2 for Bitfarms, I think is crazy. If we look at the market cap, so Bitfarms is now at an $860 million market cap. And, if you look at its peers, like You know, Bitfarms mines more Bitcoin than Cypher, and I understand it's more complicated than that, but Cypher is double their market cap. Bitfarms mines more Bitcoin than Terawulf. Terawulf is triple their market cap, more than triple their market cap. So to me, the market is just clearly saying, we want to wait and see. You say you're going to get to 21 exahash. We'll believe it when we see it. Edmund, no, I wasn't saying BNB is a stable coin. I was just saying it was the next coin after. That's the fourth largest coin overall, but one of them ahead of them is Tether, which is a stable coin. So, you know, if you don't count stable coin, then BNB is the third largest cryptocurrency. Sourmelon Gaming said Ben doesn't care about shareholders' value. I mean, I don't know if I believe that. I mean, it all comes down to about 6 months ago, I said, you know what, for me personally, and this is just me personally, I was giving Riot kind of a 90-day probationary period in my mind. You know, they had been saying they were going to do something specifically as far as growth in their exahash, and I wanted to see growth in the number of Bitcoin that they were mining. And in that 90 days, they did do what they said they were going to do. And I feel like I'm at the same fork in the road with Bitfarms. You know, they kind of got 90 days, and it's really now 60 days to do what they said they were going to do, or give us an extremely detailed, you know, I want to see progress. If they don't get to 21 exahash exactly, that's not going to make me, you know, bail. But we need to see significant growth. They need to get from 11.3 to something significantly higher than that, show us that they're well on their way to the 21 they promised us, with more specifics on exactly why they didn't get there if they didn't in that time, and exactly when they're going to get there. So I'm going to hold out. They're still saying that they were going to do what they said they were going to do. So time will tell. But I understand why the market short term, you know, here in the meantime is, I don't want to say punishing them, but in a holding pattern and waiting. You know, are they going to do what they've been promising or not? And Sourmelon Gaming saying Bitfarms has missed a lot of their exahash goals time-wise. So in the last bull market, you know, at the end of the last bull market, they had some aggressive goals and they made a financial play. They borrowed money, they bought Bitcoin, and that turned everything upside down and inside out. And it took them a long time to get back on track. But I think management did a good job of unwinding what, you know, in hindsight, listen, hindsight's 2020. That turned out to be a disaster. And, you know, I know a lot of people will probably never buy Bitfarms again because they went through that. But I would say, I mean, so for me, I'm kind of in my 90-day holding period. And I'm optimistic. Someone Gaming says, I'm up over 1,000% on Wolf and I'm not selling. So yeah, on the flip side, Terawulf, which has less exahash than Bitfarms, they mine less Bitcoin than Bitfarms, you know, has triple the market cap. And, you know, they are now, I believe, out of Bitcoin miners, they jumped back into first place out of all the Bitcoin miners. So we'll take a look at that next. If you guys could do us a favor and smash the like button. We're at 57 likes. It does help the stream out a lot. To get to at least 100, we try to go for 200, so that would be much appreciated. George is with us. For those of you joining us, I think he had a business call. As you guys know, since the storms hit, his world's been kind of turned inside out as well, so he's doing his best to stay with us on the stream, so I would expect him back in a minute. You'll see his empty chair there at the moment. So let's go to the big press releases that came out this week. There was not a lot of news out of the Bitcoin miners, but one Bitcoin miner had press releases 3 days in a row. And the market loved this. The market loved what they did. And my question is going to be, do you think more Bitcoin miners are going to follow suit and do this? This is let me show you what they did. Let's walk through. Let's kind of walk through the time frame here, a 3-day time period of what exactly they did. So this was on the 23rd after the market closed. Terawulf's board of directors authorizes a $200 million share repurchase program. So here's a Bitcoin miner buying back shares. Now remember, they issued a lot of shares over the last year or year and a half. Their stock is way up. They're the best performing stock out of the Bitcoin miners in the year 2024, and now they're talking about a $200 million share repurchase program. Now, I think there was one day this week where they took a hit, and I think they took a hit on this, but immediately following this, the very next day, actually, sorry, I think this looks like 1 minute later, so 1 minute later, Terawulf announces proposed private offering of $350 million of convertible notes. So let me find the sentence I'm looking for. Right here. The company intends to use the net proceeds from the offering to pay the cost of the capped call transactions described below to repurchase shares of the company's common stock. And of course, for general corporate purposes, that is always put into, the potential uses that leaves them the flexibility to do what they need to do so they can use their money. But they announced a $200 million buyback program, but yet they're issuing $350 million of convertible notes. And remember, if those notes can get converted, basically they're selling stock to buy back stock. So that's what they're doing. And then 1 day later, Terawulf announces upsize and pricing of the $425 million convertible note offering. So this ends up at $425 million, 2.75% convertible senior notes at a 32.5% conversion premium. So the market absolutely loved this because Terawulf was the runaway best performing Bitcoin mining stock on the week this week. So this happened it's 3 press releases. 2 of them were 1 minute apart. One of them was the next morning. So, that was an awful lot to digest. But essentially, to me, this rings of MicroStrategy, right? Instead of these at-the-market offerings and stock dilutions in that manner, they're going to do the opposite. They're going to buy their stock back and do convertible debt. So now it is a little bit different than MicroStrategy because they're not buying Bitcoin with it and they don't hodl their Bitcoin. So, Terawulf is a hybrid play. They talked an awful lot about high performance computing and AI. So they haven't, that part of their business is not off to the races yet. But it is something they are planning on and talking a lot about. So, I haven't seen this. I'm just going to put a poll up. So this is just straight yes or no. Do you like Bitcoin? So do you like the idea of Bitcoin miners buying back stock? So they're doing a stock buyback and the cash that they are going to get to do that is issuing convertible debt, which is what Terawulf did. So in other words, do you like what Terawulf just did? Do you expect more Bitcoin miners to maybe look at this and go, hey, this was seems like from a stock standpoint, this was a big win for Terawulf. And maybe this is a better formula for raising money than all these at-the-market offerings. And George is just coming back, and I wanted him to weigh in on this because this is something he's pretty passionate about. Welcome back, George. Can you hear us?
Sorry, Tom. I was talking about somebody very close to me, so I had to make that. What am I passionate about?
This is I just went through what Terawulf did, so I want to get your play on it because I know that you're passionate about these at the market offering dilution. So what we just talked about is Terawulf basically announced they're going to do a $200 million buyback of their stock. 1 minute later, they put out a press release that they're doing $350 million of convertible debt. So they're going to raise 350, and then they ended up getting upsized to 425 million. So they're going to raise 425 million dollars, and with $200 million of that, they're going to buy their stock back. So they're issuing senior convertible notes. Now they're at a 32.5% premium to buy back their stock. Now I know you do not like these at the market offerings. So is this a better formula?
I don't even understand it. That one's complicated.
So
on one hand, are they issuing any more shares?
I mean, effectively, they're issuing convertible notes. So right now that is debt, but it will convert to equity, presumably at the end of its period.
So they're issuing more shares to buy back shares.
You could say it like that. That's right. But they're buying back shares at the current market price, and these shares won't come into existence until 2030. So this will be a stock dilution in the year 2030. So they're reducing their number of shares today to increase their number of shares, 6 years from now. So
I guess they're saying that the current value of their stock is worth more than what it's going to be in 6 years from now.
They're saying they think their stock price is going to go up a lot. And the people that buy these notes are paying a 32% premium to the current price to buy the notes. Now, if the stock goes up 300%, then these people win big time.
Right.
And currently, if you're a shareholder, you're not getting diluted. This convertible debt. So we've seen this is the MicroStrategy formula, except with MicroStrategy, they're not buying their own stock back. They're buying Bitcoin. And we've also seen Marathon, or now Mara, issue convertible debt and buy Bitcoin.
I would have been much happier if they bought Bitcoin.
So that's the interesting part. Terawulf is a company that not only aren't they buying Bitcoin with this, they don't even hodl any of their own Bitcoin. So they're one of the companies that has the philosophy, they mine the Bitcoin, they sell the Bitcoin. So yeah, this is a different kind of company. But by the same token, with all that said, and it's some of the stuff that at the moment, I don't know that I love this. I don't really like that they don't hodl their Bitcoin, but I'll tell you who does like it. The market seems to like it because they're the number one performing Bitcoin mining stock in the year 2024.
Well, right now you're correct, Tom.
I mean,
I don't know what is it up this year?
So let's go to that chart and let's take a look at what everything's done. So this is year to date. So Terawulf just overtook Core Scientific. Terawulf is up 166% year to date in a year where 6 of the Bitcoin miners are red on the year. Cleanspark's up only 3%. HUT's up only 12%. I mean, you've got Core Scientific up 141%, Terawulf up 166%. And I will mention while I'm doing this, the other one that we follow that is a straight Bitcoin play, but is not a Bitcoin miner. If you look at MicroStrategy's year to date, you'll see they're up 272% year to date. So the 3 big winners this year, if you're invested in MicroStrategy or Terawulf or Core Scientific, you've had a fantastic year, a big run with those stocks. If you're invested straight in Bitcoin, you're up 59%. That's a very nice return. Cypher's up 32%. Iron's up 29%. So, you can't really cry too much about that. But, a lot of these are lagging way, way behind. And it's funny because Terawulf does not hodl their Bitcoin. They're number one. Core Scientific does not hodl their Bitcoin. They're number two. Cypher does not hodl. Actually, I think Cypher does hodl a little bit of their Bitcoin. They're number three. Iron does not hodl their Bitcoin. They're number four. So 3 out of the top 4 performing Bitcoin miners this year are the ones that don't hodl their Bitcoin. So is this going to flip? Is there an opportunity here when Bitcoin starts to run? You know, at Bitcoin 80, 90, 100,000, are people going to all of a sudden look at this the other way and go, wait a second, you know, CleanSpark's got 10,000 Bitcoin and, you know, Bitcoin's worth $100,000 now. Time to buy CleanSpark. Or, you know.
There's definitely going to be some type of rotating like that, I think.
I feel like there's a rotation ahead. The question is, are these stocks that are way up going to take a hit, or are they just kind of go a little more sideways and the rest catch up? I don't know the answer to that. Robin is saying they might have outsmarted themselves, Terawulf. Admin, MicroStrategy. Yeah, I know. Listen, Admin was the first one on our channel, was the first member to start ringing the bell on MicroStrategy. I believe you've caught all of this run, Admin. It has to have been at least a year you've been screaming this. So I think you caught all of that 276% move to the upside, maybe more. Robin saying, in my opinion, the use of the ATMs have overstayed their welcome. It's kind of a rock and a hard place. And I will say, if the Bitcoin miners have matured to where they can start issuing convertible debt, maybe investors will like that a lot more than these at-the-market offerings, because the dilution that's gone on has been staggering. But by the same token, I'm going to go to a different chart. You know, if you look at CleanSpark, they came into the year at 10 exahash. As of September 30th, they were at 27.6, and they announced subsequent to that, they're at 30. So they've tripled their exahash this year. So they're 3 times the size company, you know, so where's that money coming from? So far, it's come from at-the-market offerings. Maybe we shift into a world where there's less of these monster at-the-market offerings and more of this convertible debt. Maybe people will like that a lot better. Now, the balance sheet, you know, people, the flip side is people don't like to see debt on the balance sheet, but maybe they like it more than this monumental stock dilution. So let's ask that question. So do you like... So 55% say they liked what Terawulf is doing. So I'm just going to ask you a little bit of a different way, and then we'll move on to a different poll. Okay, so would you rather your Bitcoin miner raise money by convertible debt, which is what you know, Terawulf is doing right now, or would you rather continue to see them do at-the-market offerings?
I actually think, Tom, that you and I should start a company and start buying Bitcoin and publicly trade it.
It's at the moment, that is the strategy that's working better than any other strategy.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
I don't know what to say. I mean, MicroStrategy is showing that philosophy at the moment. That philosophy is in runaway first place. It's doing better than buying straight up Bitcoin. It's doing better than the Bitcoin miners, and even Marathon. You know, if you take a look at Marathon, they're mining the most Bitcoin by far. They're hodling 100% of what they mined. They actually did some convertible debt to buy over 4,000 additional Bitcoin. they have over 25,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. But if we go to the other chart here, if you look year to date, they're one of the worst performers on the year. So the market doesn't like the marathon formula. They like the MicroStrategy formula. And I will still hold out. I think this is the more important chart to go to, which I don't think we've looked at yet. This is the last 7 months. So we have been trading, right? We ran up way ahead pre-halving. We hit a new all-time high for the first time in the history of Bitcoin. We ran up to, 73,588, it looks like. So that was a new all-time high, beating the previous all-time high of 69,000 back in 2021. So it seemed like we were ahead of schedule. It seemed like, this one was going straight to the moon, but, we paid for this with now almost 7 months of sideways price action. And I do think the Bitcoin miners, people don't like the economics of a Bitcoin miner, in this level right here. They don't like this. They don't want to see Bitcoin at 64,000 or 67,000. They don't like the gross profit, the cash flow, et cetera, out of the Bitcoin miners at these numbers. Even though if you dig deep, you'll see almost every single one of the 12 Bitcoin miners that we're following, particularly the top 6, are pretty highly profitable. Sorry, I don't want to say profitable. They're very cash flow positive, even with Bitcoin at these numbers. But if Bitcoin were to go up $20 or $30 or $40,000, and a lot of people expect it to go up really $60 or $80 or $100,000 by the end of this bull market, I think people are going to really like the economics of the Bitcoin miners at those numbers. You're going to be back to those 70, 80, 85% gross profit margins instead of these gross profit margins that all they do is, cover overhead, depreciation, et cetera. And, they hang out at around break even and that kind of stuff. So this to me is the key. And it did look like, if I zoom in, it looked like we were making our move. So we had 3 days that closed outside of this range, but we moved back under. Yesterday we pulled above, and today we're pulling back under. So there's clearly a battle on between the bears and the bulls at this, right at the top of this descending line of resistance. So if the next move is up, I do think we will see. And I want to go back to, let me go to a different chart. If we look at last week, this is not the week that just happened. This was the previous week. So this is the week where we jumped outside of that 7-month trading range. Look at what the Bitcoin miners did this week. Bitcoin was up 9%. That was a big move. Yes, there was one outlier, Core Scientific, down 3%. Cleanspark was up 34% last week. BitDigital was up 28%. You see a bunch of these in the 20s. So, these were big moves to the upside. I think had that trend continued, had we continued this breakout back to 70,000 and then maybe running back to 73,000, I think you would have seen another week like this and then another week like this. At some point, that's what I'm expecting, but I'm not expecting it until we get out of this rut. And we are fighting. We are fighting the fight right here in a big way to break out of the top side of this range. So it all comes down to, you think, are we going to break out this time, or are we going to have a whole nother circle and cycle where, we retest the lows and then, come back up to the highs? The market thinks we're going to break out. So I'll go to this.
I think we're going to break out.
You think we're going to have a breakout?
I really thought we'd get 70 last weekend.
Right. So the poll going into last weekend, on the public stream, we thought that the majority thought we would run up to 70,000 over the weekend, and it did not happen. And we really haven't had much. I mean, if you look at the one day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? There's not much. 8, 9, 10. The last 10 days, we we've been consolidating at a pretty good spot, right at the absolute top of this range. And you'll see, the other times we hit the top of this range, we bounced off of it, we bounced off of it, we bounced off of it, we bounced off of it. This is different. So I do believe this looks very different than what we've done in the past. To me, this looks more like, we had a high here, we had a higher high here, we had a higher high here. I think this is the new trend. So, time will tell, but this is the first time we've had that type of activity since we hit 73,000 back in March. So, it does seem to me like we've had a trend reversal. Nothing goes in a straight line. These sideways periods or periods of consolidation, especially short periods like a week, are not a big deal. And, if this lasts another week or two, I think we're all looking for a breakout by the end of the year to higher numbers. So let's see. So 2/3 of people would rather see this convertible debt than more of this dilution through these at the market offerings. So maybe this is what's to come, because we've now seen Marathon do this. We've now seen Terawulf do this. And so let's see. Let's see if this is a trend. And that could be, a catalyst for some positive price action. Because if we go back and look, so we didn't look at this week yet. So this was last week. I just want to remind everyone, before we look at this week, last week was fantastic. This week was a mixed bag. So if we go to what happened this week, Bitcoin was down 3%. So most of the Bitcoin miners were red, but a lot of them, Riot, Iron, Bitfarms, they were down, Bit Digital, they were down exactly the same as Bitcoin. We did have a couple that had rough weeks. Bitfarms down 8%, Marathon 10%, Cleanspark 11%, BitDeer 13%. Those are tough weeks. But by the flip side, Terawulf, with their 3 press releases basically saying we're buying shares back and issuing convertible debt, they were up 22%, and they were already the second best performing stock on the year. That moved them into the best performing Bitcoin mining stock on the year. Cypher had a nice week, up 10%. So this was not an awful week. I own Marathon, I own CleanSpark, I own Bitfarms. All 3 of these underperformed. So, not a great week for my portfolio, but I'm not looking at one week. I still have conviction in these, and I'll go to something particularly on CleanSpark that came out this week. So let's
they voted today, didn't they?
And not to my knowledge.
Oh, I thought today was the vote for 300 million to 600 million stocks.
I don't, you know what? I lost track of what day that was. So that's a good question, George. Let us know in the comments.
Well, let's put it this way. I own it. I have the thing, and it was today.
It was today. So thank you. Yeah. So there you go. I missed that one. So they should be letting us know if that was a pass or fail.
Do you think that's going to mess with the stock price, Tom?
Maybe this is why they had a bad week this week and they were down 11%, although they had their best week in many months last week. So I think it has more to do with balancing that out. And I don't think it's going to affect it because, there's going to be more at the market offerings. Even if they start to incorporate, convertible, you still need those authorized shares. Remember, authorized shares aren't issued shares. It just means they are authorized to issue them from now, until going forward. So
what's their float of the 300 million?
I think it was like 240 million. I can look that up if you want to look. So, you don't want to be a company where you're bumping up against your total number of authorized shares already being issued. So, most of these companies and you don't want to do this every year, go ask to raise this. So it's not uncommon for a company to try and double the number of authorized outstanding shares so that, they don't have to go back 18 months from now and go, I know we just asked this, but, now we want some more. And obviously, hopefully, they're not going to be issuing that fast, but we'll see. So the key is this convertible debt for Terawulf continued their tear. They are on a tear this year. So I want to go to this. This came out. This is dated September 30th. And it was put out by CleanSpark this week. So you can see CleanSpark. And what this is reporting is BlackRock now owns 7.7% of CleanSpark. So these are, when you get over, I think, 5%, these are mandatory to report. So as we talk about institutional adoption, here you have BlackRock. And if I go, I think I have their chart up over time. Did I get that or did I lose that? So I'm not sure if I have that, but BlackRock continues to add shares of CleanSpark. So to me, BlackRock and Vanguard are the number 1 and 2 investors in CleanSpark. So like Marathon and Riot, they've gotten that institutional adoption. And so this information came out this week. And I do think BlackRock's the number 1 holder of CleanSpark. So to me, that's good news. All right, I'm jumping all over the place, but let's get a different poll up here. So now we're at almost 70% on this convertible debt. So let's see. I don't mind the convertible debt. You get it at a premium. You pay a very low interest rate on it, right? It's debt at, they're paying 2.75%. I've seen a lot less than that on convertible debt. It's sold at a premium to the current stock price. So maybe this is a superior way to get this done. And maybe this is the beginning of a trend for a lot of these Bitcoin miners. Let's see. So George, to your point, let's ask the same question this week.
Yeah, let's do it.
So here's just a yes or no. What are you guys feeling? Is Bitcoin going to break out of 70,000 by the end of the weekend? And understand we're just under 67,000 right now. So if I do the percentage from where we're trading right this second up to 70,000, that would be a 4.76% move. So are we getting there over the weekend? We did get, if I turn this into a 4-hour, we got to 69,000, just under $69,500 last weekend. So, last weekend we asked, are we going to get to 70,000? We got to 69,500. So, can we do that this weekend? And you can see, from this period of consolidation, we took a run up and, we've held, these are awful lines, so pardon my lines, but, we've held this. So we seem to be moving in the right direction. Is the weekend too fast? We'll see, right? That's asking a lot. Take this commercial break to ask people if you would be so kind as to please hit the like button. We're at 88 likes. We're going for 100 likes. We're going to try and get to 200 likes. Let's get people back interested in Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. Let's get them over to this stream.
A lot of likes going on, Tom.
A lot of likes. That is good. And I'm going to show you why I want to get people back interested in Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, because they have lost interest. And that is the next chart I'm going to go to right now. And then I'm going to show you the flip side, what the big dogs are doing versus what the retail investors are doing. And I'm always so afraid that, we, the retail investors, are too little, too late, and are, in general, timing by retail investors is not great. And that's why big money has big money and they make big money. So let's take a look at a couple of things. Number one, this is Google Trends. So this is a tool that anybody can use. So I looked at Bitcoin. This is the 1-year chart for Bitcoin, and this is essentially how popular the term Bitcoin has been from a search standpoint on Google. And as most of you know, Google gets the vast majority of searches on this earth. So over the last 12 months, the peak, the 100 mark, was in March. That's when the ETFs were running. That's when Bitcoin hit its new all-time high. From there, you can see it's trailed off. We got up to 60 in the beginning of August. Since then, it took a huge dip, and nobody is searching for Bitcoin. We're at 32. So more than 3 times as many people were searching for Bitcoin back here than right now. And we're multiple months into, so this is your retail investor. They just don't care. And, you know, my point would be that we talked about on the members only stream. If retail investors don't care about Bitcoin, they sure as heck don't care about the Bitcoin miners. So, you know, interest is at a very, very low point. And if I turn this into a 5-year, you're going to see this peak back in March. If we look at our 5-year chart, that's only a 54. So even the peak this year was still only a modest level of interest, and we're 1/3 that. So, you know, if you go back to the middle of 2022, if you go back to, you know, this is the ultimate peak, if I can get here. Why it won't let me. I know. Well, you can see this is somewhere around May of 2021. So the first 5 months of 2021, we had some spikes up to 100. And if you remember, that's in I think April, Bitcoin hit that $64,000 or $65,000 mark. It did pull back to 29,000. It ran back up to 69,000 in November. But this was the peak in interest in Bitcoin. You know, so compared to that, we're at 18. So interest is extreme. That's one of the lowest numbers in the last 5 years, right? I see one spot lower where we were at 12. So interest from retail investors is super, super low. I think that bodes well because that means the FOMO has yet to even begin, and the retail investors have not even yet begun to put their money into Bitcoin, into the Bitcoin miners. Conversely, if I go to, let me find this. So this is an article from 2 days ago. So on the flip side, while the little guys are out sitting on the sidelines, the number of Bitcoin whales jumps to the highest since January of 2021. That's almost 4 years. So whale entities are clusters of crypto wallet addresses held by a single network participant holding at least 1,000 Bitcoin. So this is at basically a 4-year high. So while the little guy is out, the big guys are in. They are buying. The spike in the number of whales strengthens the case for a rally to record highs. Retail investor accumulation has recently slowed, according to CryptoQuant, which we just kind of anecdotally saw by looking at a lack of, you know, investment or a lack of interest in the search results on Google. So CryptoQuant is kind of verifying that that is true. The number of large Bitcoin holders is growing again, boosting the case for a price rally to new record highs. So, you know, there's some bullish stuff sitting behind the scenes. The question is, you know, when? We've been waiting a long time now to try and see if we can get this breakout. But, you know, these are people with a lot of money. 1,000 Bitcoin, right, is, sorry, I'm going to do the math. Okay, so these are people who have, you know, somewhere between $68 million and billions of dollars invested in Bitcoin. So those people are buying.
And just so you know, we like to allocate it. We keep 1,000 here, 1,000 here, 1,000 here, because you know what I mean. Just so you know,
we don't kind of stay off the radar.
Yeah.
15 minutes. So we're still holding just under 67,000. You can see, you know, this was yesterday. We were at 68,289. This right here, this dotted line, was last Friday. We were at 68,006. Now we're at 66,008. So we're down 3% on the week. The Bitcoin miners had a big sell-off at the end of the day. Almost all of these Bitcoin miners were up. Some of them were up big, like CleanSpark. If I look at, let me go to let's take a look at a couple of these. So if I do this and I switch to the 1 hour, right? This was the open of the day. So you can see the opening candle for CleanSpark was up. It was kind of off to the races. And then from its peak, you know, it just went every single hour, the rest of the day, it went down. So it went down 7. So it was up 3.5%. It ended up down, you know, 4.5%. So that's a big reversal. And a lot of these did the same thing. If you look at Riot, the same thing. This is the opening candle. It ran way up. And then every single candle the rest of the day was red. And it's not like, you know, it's not like Bitcoin was crashing the whole day. So the price action, this was just a big, giant Friday sell-off. That's what happened. We've had a couple of Fridays in a row where we didn't get this. So, you know, I've been kind of getting used to the setup being a little run-up on Friday and a strong finish. But this is kind of old school. You know, Marathon, if we look at this list, Marathon was down over 6%. Riot down over 5%. CleanSpark just under 5%. A couple did well. We talked about Terawulf. Terawulf was up a lot more than this. They ended up 2.7%. They were up 6 or 7% at one point. Iron finished just a little bit in the green. But this was a very, very red day for the Bitcoin miners. But we saw, again, if we go back to put it in perspective, if we go back to the week to date, you know, for most of the Bitcoin miners, this week was not a disaster. There were 4 down here at the bottom where this was a pretty tough week. But even, you know, 8-10% moves. BitDeer, I'm not sure why they were down 13%. Let's see what they did last week. Nothing special last week. They were up 15, so they canceled last week's activity out for whatever reason.
I got to sneak away for a second.
All right, George, we'll see you in a minute. And Crypto Fever saying the miners sold off as soon as the Tether FUD hit. So, yeah, I mean, and we looked at that article and the people at Tether said it's just old recycled news. But be that as it may, you know, an article in the Wall Street Journal does hold weight, and it hurt Bitcoin. It really hurt the Bitcoin miners. So let's see what will Bitcoin break out to $70,000 over the weekend. So I'm going to change this because it's very split. We're almost 50-50, but 55% think no. I actually do think that's aggressive. The weekends, the ETFs don't participate over the weekend. So that's one big piece of buying pressure that doesn't exist. Having said that, you know, we did pop up a little bit over the weekend last week, so I'm not ruling it out. But I'm going to ask this a different way. So that was fairly split. All right, so let's just give it a little bit more time. Instead of by the end of the weekend, this is 1 week from now. Is Bitcoin going to break out above 70,000 over by the end of the month of October? So is this going to be an Uptober? Are we going to get that run in the last week of the month? And are we going to get over $70,000? And Midway's pointing out Bitdeer also has Tether. Thank you, Midway. This is a great point. Bitdeer also has Tether as a major investor in them. I think Tether is the largest investor in Bitdeer. So thanks for pointing that out. And Midway also said with Bitdeer, I wonder if it's because the Seal Miner A2 machines are 16.5 joules per terahash instead of 15.0 joules per terahash. I will tell you, when they put that announcement out a while ago, so if you're interested, you can go back and look. Several months ago, they put out an announcement that they were putting out the Seal Miner A2 and then the Seal Miner A3 and the Seal Miner A4, all between the year 2024 and 2025. Launch dates, prototype dates, launch dates, go-to-market dates, and the specs on these, by the time they got to the Seal 4, I felt were unrealistic. So obviously, I don't know what they're doing. Those things don't exist yet. They're in process right now. They are on the Seal 2, and I think they had them. Please, somebody look this up and correct me. So don't take my word for it. Go take a look. But I think they were claiming by the end of 2025 they were going to have a Seal 4. I think that was working at 5 joules per terahash, and that to me, I guess we'll believe it when I see it. I don't think that seems very, very hard to believe. So I'm not exactly sure what this part of their strategy is. I don't have a great warm, fuzzy feeling about Bitdeer. It seems like they're doing a lot of things. I'm just not sure, this piece of their puzzle, I'm not exactly sure where it's going. And if we look at year to date, so Bitdeer's down 24% year to date. So they're in 4th last place here year to date. It's been a rough year. Having said that, I have been saying, I think all these Bitcoin miners are going to get green by the end of the year. So that's my expectation. Obviously, that means my expectation is that Bitcoin is going to have a break out of this range by the end of the year, get to 74, get above 80. I think we're going to close above 80 by the end of the year, but we don't know.
I tell you what, though, I think the election and after the election, I think it's going to be a seesaw.
We're going to have some ups and downs after the election.
Yeah, I'm almost immediately. Just a seesaw. Up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yep. So are you going to hold and just hold your breath through that, or are you going to try and trade that, or are you going to wait and see?
Well,
not sure yet.
It costs so much money, I just got to hold it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great point.
I was thinking about moving it to wrapped, personally.
Oh, into wrapped Bitcoin?
Yeah. So I can make some money off of it.
Ryan said, you're the best, George. What have you been buying and selling lately?
I'm not the best. All I have is Cleanspark and whatchamacallit? Bitfarms.
So right now you're in Bitfarms, and you traded in and out of that today, and you pretty much traded out very near the high and traded in very near the low. So we'll see if it runs up.
I love Bitfarms. It's so, I bought it for what, $1.70, 60, 80, $1.80. What was it?
I can't remember, but it got down. Let's take a look at the chart. It got down to.
I can look back and see what I got it for.
Yeah, you only know the price you got it for. I can just tell you where it got to. Today it looks like it got. Yeah, its recent low is somewhere around $1.89.
I got it for $1.91 today.
And I think you said you sold it for $2.
Yeah. And then I got back in it again. Let's see.
I won't talk numbers, but George, does not. He buys and sells a large number of shares when he does this. So I'll leave that to you. We'll take a quick look at the ETF. So this is one of the reasons that I'm a little bit surprised Bitcoin hasn't had more of a run. There's some other force counterbalancing this, because if you go back to October 11th, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days, not including today's. 9 of those 10 days were big inflows. And if you take those 10 days put together, even with this $79 million outflow a few days ago, this is almost $3 billion of inflows by the Bitcoin spot ETFs in the US. So that is some massive, massive buying pressure. To me, I thought that should have been enough to push this, to push us out of this chart that we were stuck in. So I'm not sure what the selling pressure was on the other side of this, but what we can see, so to me, my takeaway, forget the short term, my takeaway is we just saw an article where the whales are buying. There's now more whales than there's been in the last 4 years. Now we see, 9 out of the last 10 days, the ETFs are buying, and in a big way. These are $200, $300, $400, $500 million a day. Most importantly, BlackRock, which pretty much took September off, they've got several $300 million days of buying Bitcoin. So, to me, I look at what the big money is doing, and we've seen. We did have an 8-day period a month ago, maybe a month or a month and a half ago, where there was 8 days in a row of outflows. That was a record, and Bitcoin got beat up during those days. So I would have expected more of a run up here. Let's see what happens. I think there's a big, big battle going on. So we got to see if the Bulls can win and push us to this next spot.
Hey, Iceman, just so you know, I had to approve your message, and I agree with you. I'm a slob.
That's an outrage. I don't see Iceman's message. You approved it. I don't think it showed up, though.
Oh, it did? No, he said George is a slob and has no clue. Can I buy a clue? You got to understand, I don't care. I'm a slob. Oh, my God, I'm a slob. I agree with you. I should go take you on a little tour. You're like, man, this guy's a freaking slob.
Well,
but
I don't think you're a slob, George.
Listen, I just looked it up. I got in and out of Bitfarms 4 times this week. And
Wow.
I bought all around. My highest purchase was $1.94. The lowest was $1.90. So, and I sold around 209 or 210.
Nice. Yeah,
because
so that was...
You can see the range of how these guys are playing it. You know what I mean?
Let's see what we've missed here.
Call me after, by the way. I have to talk to you about something.
Me?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Did you hear that?
Did I hear it?
Yeah, I just farted.
Oh, great. I think you're proving what's his name's point here.
I'm proving his point.
Unbelievable. So let's switch gears for just a second. We won't spend too much time on this, but I think we got to talk about the news of the week. Tesla rallies most in over a decade on Musk's bold EV forecast. So I want to show you what happened to Tesla yesterday. I mean, this was crazy. This is the 1-day chart. Look at the gap. Right? Tesla closed here on Wednesday, and it closed here on Thursday. This is 1 day. This is 22%. This is like $140 billion increase in their market cap. This is crazy. And it was followed up by another green day today. So for those of you interested in Tesla, they had a gap down, right? They had that event. Nobody liked it. They had this giant gap down just a week ago. It was like, can Tesla hold this line of support here? And boom, a week later, they're off to the races. And you can see this, basically, they're right at their 1-year high. You got to go all the way back to, if you go back to July of 2023, They did get up just about to $300. They got to $299.29. So, if they can break out of this little pattern, maybe they're on a run to $300. So I won't talk too much about Tesla. I'm not sure how much this crowd is interested in that, but you can see, I mean, that's one of the biggest moves just from a market cap standpoint in the history of the stock market. And this is not the first time we've said this in the last year. We've had several of these gigantic moves. All right, so let's see. All right, I'm just going to my next thing here on the list. While I'm looking for that, if you guys would be so kind, we're over 100 likes. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. If you would smash the like button, it does help the stream. It does help the channel.
You know what we should try to do, Tom? Smash the dislike button and see if that helps it.
I'm gonna have to add a new button. I had a hard enough time getting this thing back, but yeah, hey, listen, if you hate the stream, smash the dislike button if that's a.
I think it helps it, honestly. You know what I mean? As long as there's any activity, it helps.
Cosmic Contrarian said MicroStrategy and Tesla are must holds for the long term. I mean, Tesla is all over the place. This, I don't know, from a long term, it's been consolidating for years now. It had the monster of all runs, and a lot of people got rich on this stock, but, for the last several years, it's been consolidating. So, maybe it's ready to take the next leg up. You've got people like Kathy Wood that think this is still going to 10x and that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens. A lot of it's, again, as always, a lot of it's going to have to do on whether they can deliver with their driverless taxi cabs and that kind of stuff. So I just want to note this, that this may seem like it's out of left field and has nothing to do with nothing, but the 30-year U.S. Treasury is at 4.5%. It was up a little bit today. And if I zoom into like a 3-month chart, you'll see this got down under 4. It got down to 3.9. This 30-year Treasury has moved back up 0.5%. So in that time, as the Fed has cut rates, what's happening here is short-term rates are going down, but the market doesn't believe that this is sustainable. And the reason this is important is the long-term rates then are staying up because people think that inflation is still a big risk. It's causing the mortgage interest rates to stay high on, 15 and 30-year mortgages. So this is affecting the overall market. And also, when you can get these types of returns on treasuries, it also does affect, it's hard to imagine, but it does take money away from more risk on assets. So these have been very stubborn, and it really is a big sign that, and you can see, since this was September 16th. So, we're over a month into the 30-year just going up and up and up. And if you look at the 20-year and all the long-term stuff and mortgage rates, this is what's happening. And, if you look at what's going on, this is the Fed Watch tool. We've now priced in a 95.5% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut and a 5% chance of no rate cut. So you can see a month ago, there was a 57% chance of a 50 basis point rate cut. And now that chance is 0. So that's what's happening. The market's getting less and less. The market feels like the Fed is going to take its time, go slow. They think that inflation is still a risk. And, you know, a lot of the things that I was expecting to happen aren't happening because of that. You know, the Russell 2000 continues to lag behind. Oh, I want to show everybody that chart because this is something we haven't looked at in a while, and I think this is worth a look because we're pretty deep into the year, so this year to date I think is meaningful. Okay, so this is year to date activity. So I've compared the top 2 precious metals with the top 2 cryptocurrencies with the 4 US indexes. The first thing you'll note is everything's in the green, right? So everything's up on the year, but Bitcoin still remains the best investment, up 60%. So, you know, that's fantastic. Bitcoin is having a good year. For all the frustration of 7 months of kind of going sideways, Bitcoin is still leading the way. But look at second and third place. Silver's up over 41% year to date. Gold's up 33.5% year to date. Last year, these two finished in last place. This year, they're off to the races. And if you're just invested in the market, the Nasdaq's up 23%. The S&P 500's up just under 22%. So what's lagging? The Dow I don't really pay attention to. I'm not sure how meaningful it is, but the Russell, the small cap risk on stocks, the Russell is up 9% versus its other peers here that are up, over 20%. So as we look at the Bitcoin miners, they fall more in line with what the Russell 2000 does. And obviously, of course, what Bitcoin does. So I still do expect big runs in Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, but you can see this is what those long-term rates, this 30-year Treasury rates being stubborn, this is the result. People aren't rotating into the Russell like I thought they would be by now in a big way. The Russell has lagged behind the other indexes massively over the last 3.5 years, and it continues. And most surprisingly is Ethereum's in last place. Ethereum's up 7.5% year to date. So, it has been a rough year for Ethereum. That's in a year where, Bitcoin's up 60%, and that's in a year where they launched all the Ethereum ETFs. So with all of that, Ethereum is not doing well at all. Correspondingly, if you take a look at this, this is Bitcoin dominance. So this is the percent Bitcoin is of the total cryptocurrency universe. You can see Bitcoin that hit a new all-time high today, 59.21%. So again, you got to go back pretty much 4 years. You got to go back to April of 2021 for Bitcoin to have been at that dominance. And the cryptocurrency universe was a very different world back in this day. So apples to apples, this has been on a run. Altcoin season forget about altcoin season. That has not yet started. Bitcoin dominance continues to hit new all-time highs. So I do think there will be an altcoin season. This is one of the reasons that Ethereum's been lagging. I'm not sure what the other reasons are. People seem to have really faded away from the Ethereum play in a big, big way. And Bitcoin, although it's sideways, you can see it's the outperformer. And then, of course, obviously Solana, which we looked at earlier. Solana was up 7.7% this week on a week where everything else was basically red. So that continues to outperform. If we go to the Solana chart, if we go year to date, right, the Solana started at $32 and it's at $167. So for those of you, and there were many members that were talking about Solana a year ago. So, congratulations to you guys. That this was a runaway year for Solana. And I don't know if this is one of the things that's putting a dent in Ethereum, or, you know, if it's just all not their time of year yet. So we did take a quick, saw somebody asking for the MicroStrategy chart. We did take a quick look at this earlier, and you can see year to date, MicroStrategy is up 272%, which is significantly more than even the best Bitcoin miner. Right, if we go back to the Bitcoin miners year to date. So Terawulf's up 166%. Core Scientific's up 141%. No one else is even close to them. And at the same time, you've got MicroStrategy up 272%. So that has been by far the big winner on the year. Just checking my notes. George, are you still in the... Or are you on another line? So I don't know what happened. Someone's asking what's with the CleanSpark voting. I don't know the answer to that. So we had Bitfarms announce that they're going to announce their quarterly results on November 12th. We've gotten a series of these announcements from the Bitcoin miners. Most of the Bitcoin miners are going to be announcing their quarterly results for the period ended September 30th over the next 2 weeks. And I'll reiterate what I've said on the last several streams. I'm not expecting great results. This is the first quarter that was all post-halving. Right, this was entire period was in this 7-month consolidation where Bitcoin was kind of trending sideways with a little bit of a bias to the downside. The Bitcoin economics versus the global hash rate has not been great. So I think you got to dig deep into these financial statements to make sense out of them. And I think the next 2 quarters in a row will get increasingly better. First quarter 2025, I think you're going to see really good results. That's just my personal opinion. And that reminds me of one thing we didn't talk about. Let me find this.
I'm back, Tom.
Welcome back. That's okay.
I was looking for a clue.
Did you find one?
No. Just found another house I own. Damn it.
Hey,
excuse me. Do you have a clue? Nope.
So this came out a couple of days ago. Bitcoin mining difficulty hits all-time high. So we just had a difficulty adjustment. It's now at its all-time high as mining revenue rises, and it signals an upcoming bull run. So we've read a lot of articles today during our live stream talking about indicators and different things that are pointing towards a bull run in Bitcoin. So are any of those a guarantee? No. But the more of these things that we see, the better probability that we're going to get that run. I do think we're going to get that run. If we look at our current poll, will Bitcoin break out of 70,000 by the end of the month, which is only 1 week away? That didn't really change the results very much, 60-40. So I'm going to do one more poll. I'm going to up the ante just a little bit.
Oh, wow. That's huge. I'm sure everybody read about Microsoft is voting on whether they're going to invest into Bitcoin or not. Did you read about that, Tom?
I got that article up. Thank you, George. I will go to that one next. I forgot about it, so let me do that. So let me put this poll up. So I'm changing from 70,000 to 80,000. Will Bitcoin hit 80,000 by the end of the year? To me, that's the breakout. We break out above that all-time high and start the run to wherever it is we may be going. Let's get to that story. Thank you, George, because that's a pretty big story.
Yeah, it is.
And whether it happens or not, it's a sign of time, sign of things to come. Let me find this. Okay. So Microsoft urges shareholders to vote against a proposal to assess Bitcoin as a diversification investment. So what's happening here is the National Center for Public Policy Research, a conservative think tank, has notified shareholders of Microsoft that it intends to propose a Bitcoin diversification assessment at the company's annual meeting on December 10th, a filing shows. So just to put it in perspective, you know, we've got some companies in Bitcoin. I've got another article about the continued adoption of Bitcoin in smaller companies. To put it in perspective, MicroStrategy in their most recent financial statements, they had the smallest amount of cash and cash equivalents that they've had in years, and that number was still $75 billion. They typically tend to carry somewhere around $100 billion of cash and cash equivalents on their balance sheet. So you've got an organization here saying, you know, you got $100 billion on your balance sheet. You know, 2% of that's $2 billion. You know, it's not affecting your business to start to diversify your portfolio. And I think you're going to see a lot more of this. So I don't know if this will pass or if it will fail on this time around, but companies like MicroStrategy and Apple, you know, these are companies that tend to have somewhere in the $100 billion of cash range. I mean, that's hard to fathom. It's just crazy, but that's a lot of money. So it would be nothing for either one of those companies to say, you know what, let's just put $2 billion. You know, they're not going to go do it in one day, but let's allocate $2 billion and go buy some Bitcoin. So I think, you know, whether this happens now, I think in my opinion, it's inevitable that the majority of publicly traded companies, at some point, there will be a switch. You know, right now there's been small adoption. We're starting to get adoption. And at some point, it's going to go from, you know, do you want to take the risk of having it on your balance sheet to switching to, do you want to take the risk of being the company that doesn't have it on your balance sheet? I know we're not there yet, but that is a giant catalyst to come. And, you know, you're talking about just one company that's got $100 billion. There's trillions and trillions of dollars out there that really have not yet stepped into this. And some of them are just starting to jump in. So thank you, George, for reminding me of this, because this is, you know, I don't know if this is going to pass this time, but the fact that this is now a part of the conversation.
Yeah, it's going to pass, Tom.
You think this is a go?
Yeah, I think they're not going to bring it up and have it not pass. I mean, it's just.
I don't see any reason why a company like this wouldn't buy some Bitcoin.
Even just a percentage. I mean, just even a small, even like 1%. And I would imagine that if they do it, Apple's right behind them.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of these companies that have an awful lot of cash. So for them to dip their toe in the water with 1 or 2%, you know, it's not going to make or break the company. And, you know, they can be ahead of the curve.
Right.
And then at some point, once enough companies do it, you know, people are going to start looking at companies that don't do it and say, you know, what are you guys doing? That's my opinion.
Well, it's another currency now. I mean, let's be honest, right?
Larry Fink said Bitcoin itself is its own asset class. So that was last week. So, you know, when you've got BlackRock saying that, you know, there's some weight behind this. That this is happening. So we'll take a peek in our poll. Will Bitcoin hit 80 grand by the end of the year? We're at 73% saying yes. What are your thoughts, George? Are we going to hit 80 grand by the end of the year? Not even saying it's going to close above 80 grand and stay there forever. Are we going to take the next run and go test $80,000? George might be on another line or can't hear us. Edmund said, voted yes on the 80K, assuming a GOP sweep. House should be close, but it still looks good for the GOP. So I'm looking on Polymarket. I'll go take a look at that. And the odds are going up and up and up. And again, everybody has their own politics. So please, you if you're in the U.S., obviously we have a big election coming up. If you're elsewhere, everybody's got their own election process. But I'll just show everybody what's going on Polygram or Polymarket. And the odds of a Republican sweep have gone up over time. And before I go to this, I will also say this is not a poll. So there's a lot of polls out. So if you're interested in all this stuff and you care, I would take a look at the polls, and I would even take the polls with a grain of salt. They've been very wrong from time to time. And this is just people betting. So, don't take this to the bank. This is people betting. Take it for whatever it's worth. But I'm going to show you what it's showing. So in the presidential, this has changed dramatically. So if I go to 1 month, you can see a month ago, Harris was up a couple of points. And, you've now got, and again, this is just people betting, but I think we're at $2.4 billion have been bet here. So it's not a small amount of money. And for whatever reason, this just keeps spreading and spreading apart. There's pretty much almost a 30-point spread in the betting line here on the presidential side. I'm sorry, what?
Instructions.
You got to do, you broke up.
You got to read the instructions on it, because it has to tell you how they determine who the winner is, because that's going to be the caveat with it.
Well, this is who gets inaugurated.
Oh, on the 6th? Okay.
Yeah, this is the chances of who gets inaugurated. So, this has swung. Like I said, Harris was up a month ago. They were tied for several days. In fact, on a live stream, if you remember, we pressed refresh 3 weeks ago, and they were tied. And now all of a sudden this has happened. So these move fast. They are what they are. Take them for what they're worth. But
Tom only gave me next week to talk about the election, and the shenanigans are already going on, and I will share them. You can file them, to whatever department you want to. But Tom gave me next Friday for this.
That's right. Next, we got, that'll be the one before the election. I'm looking for, but I can't find the chances of a Republican sweep. But George, for you, we'll go to this. So you can see on Polymarket, they bet on everything under the sun. So betting on the Super Bowl, a lot less money, $291 million versus $2.4 billion on the presidency. We got the Chiefs at 18%. And we got the Bills in 5th place at 7%.
That's probably realistic.
I don't even know if I give them a 7% chance of winning.
You know what will happen. I would love to see it, but I can't see it happen in time.
Me neither. So we won't spend too much time on this, but this is the betting line. So you can see, again, this is just people's opinion. This is the betting line.
Was it Collins that they just picked up?
I don't know. They got Amari Cooper last week, and his first pass he ever caught was for a touchdown.
I know, dude. That was insane, wasn't it?
That was nice, but
And the dead man walking got another interception. I was like, whoa.
That's a truly inspirational miracle story.
They need to do a movie about that one.
They do, and they probably will.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
So that's what's going on there. Edmund said, Tom, you're confusing MicroStrategy with Microsoft. Not sure what you mean by that, Edmund. Microsoft is this article was about Microsoft. So I'll go back just to show you guys. This is Microsoft. They're going to vote for this at the Microsoft. There's a group that wants to see them start to invest in Bitcoin. So whether it happens or not, I don't know.
Dude, think about Amazon too, Tom. Woo-wee.
Right. A lot of companies with a lot of money out there.
You know, Bezos got in heavy with Bitcoin a few months ago, right?
That who did?
Bezos.
Oh, I did not know that.
You don't remember that whole big thing with Michael Saylor meeting with them? And
see, I'm getting old, George. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, they invited me. I just couldn't make it. Something about the jet wasn't, you know, I don't know, it was down or something for service. So I couldn't get over to Monte Cristo.
So any other thoughts, George, on this current poll? Are we going to get to 80,000 by the end of the year? 80% say yes. So we still have optimism between now and the end of the year. People just aren't so sure about necessarily the next week, and I understand that. It's super hard to predict that short term. Any parting thoughts before we take our journey into the weekend?
Baba Booey. That's it.
Great. Well, I have some parting thoughts. I'd like to special thanks to all of our members for joining us. Thanks to all the comments. Thanks to all the subscribers. Thanks to everybody who joined us here. I know today was a little bit of a red day with the Bitcoin miners, but hopefully we rally from here. So as always, go Bitcoin. And George, you usually add what?
It's better to be in it than not in it.
I thought you were going to give me your go Bills. Every time I say go Bitcoin, you say go Bills.
Go Bills. Go Bills. Everybody.
So have a great weekend, everybody. Let's see some green next week. Hopefully Bitcoin runs over the weekend. Thanks so much and enjoy your weekend.
Bye.